Hello everyone, Jordan here, welcome back to a new review. In this video we're going to be looking at the new Corsair K70 RGB PRO gaming keyboard. Now the original K70 and the K70 Mark II were feature packed and really popular, so Corsair have definitely got a lot to live up to with their new refresh. After my K70 TKL review, I had a lot of people saying they'd like to see a full size version, as the TKL had a lot of new features over the original but lacked the number pad. Corsair has answered your wishes, so let's cover some of the main features, then we'll get into the box. Like the K70 TKL, the RGB PRO has a lot of similarities to that keyboard, such as the tournament switch to disable macros, custom actions and lighting, PBT double shot keycaps, detachable USB cable and Corsair's Axon technology. This gives you up to an 8000Hz polling rate for lightning fast response. So obviously you're going to have all the number keys, and in addition to the Cherry MX Speed red and silent switches featured on the K70 TKL, the RGB PRO will also be offered with blues and browns too, for those of you that like a little bit more of a tactile feel. And before we get any comments asking, I've got a UK layout inside the box, whereas a US is printed on the box. This saves companies time and money over printing every different region layout to match the countries that the product's available in. Inside the box we'll find the keyboard, documents including instructions, safety and warranty information, a braided 6-foot or 1.82 meter USB-A to USB-C cable, and a wrist rest. Upon first impressions of the RGB PRO, it's very similar to its TKL counterpart, retaining the stealthy look. There's a solid metal construction with a cool brushed black aluminium or aluminum metal backplate. The PBT double shot keycaps really add to the stealth. Corsair say that these caps will resist wear, fading and shine, so perfect if you find that your fingers can get slightly greasy after long periods of use. On the top right of the keyboard we'll see the classic Corsair volume scroll wheel and media control combo. The scroll wheels are metal with a nice textured feel and is smooth when rotated. But there's also illuminated mute button which has customizable RGB backlighting. The media controls are the usual previous next track, play, pause and then stop, all of which also have customizable RGB. Moving left is the Corsair logo underneath the gloss panel, which gives a little bit of contrast to the keyboard. This is also RGB and can be customized with IQ, or will follow the colours using the built-in lighting. This area also houses indicators for macro recording, volume mute, Windows lock, and then the standard caps number and scroll lock indicators. Left of the keyboard again are the options to switch the current profile, backlight brightness and Windows key lock. These are illuminated in white, and then the brightness and Windows key will change to red depending on certain profile settings and if the Windows key is enabled or not. The Windows lock also doubles as a macro recording button. Simply press and hold it for 2 seconds until it pulses white. And as a side note, it won't start recording until the first key is pressed. Then press the macro button again and it will start rapidly blinking. Now just choose which key to bind it to. You can either just press a key or use the function modifier to keep it separate. Pretty simple. Now you can also bind that macro to any key on the keyboard, so you can customize to your heart's content. You can also clear macros too by holding for 2 seconds, pressing the button again and then pressing the key you want to clear. Before we move to the back of the keyboard, let's cover the included wrist rest. Thankfully it doesn't use any fragile tabs, this is using magnets to help it stay in place. Now being someone with big hands, I found that I didn't really use it as my wrist didn't sit on it, but for small or average hands it might be useful. So moving on to the switches and keys before we look at the rear of the keyboard, I've gone for the classic reds for this review, which have a 2mm actuation point and then a further 2mm of travel. Reds are probably one of the most commonly used switches for gaming, but are also comfortable for typing too. The double shot keycaps have got a nice texture which helps resist the grease, unlike ABS keycaps. They feel good to type on, but they are quite loud and hollow sounding. Let's give you a little sound sample. Now it's a little bit harder to hear in the video, but some of the keys that use stabilizers bars such as the shift and backspace do have a little bit of a pingy sound. If you're gaming and only pressing these every now and again, then it's not too bad, but if you start to type quite a bit, then you're going to notice it. Moving to the back of the keyboard, here we'll find the USB-C port for the removable cable, then to the side of that is the tournament switch. This will disable macros, custom actions and lighting once flipped over, and you can also flip a cover to make sure it's enabled and stays on. Once you enable that tournament mode, the lighting will turn red to allow visual confirmation the mode is enabled for the user and also for officials should you be competing. So moving to the underside, we've got some large rubber pads for grip on the desk, and as you can tell these pads are massive in comparison to other keyboards. There's also 2 stages of typing angle adjustment, but when you use either of those you're going to lose the grip from the top pads. Now I used my keyboard on an extended mouse pad and I found it moved slightly more when I raised it up, but not drastically. But if you're going to be using this on wood or maybe a smooth countertop, your mileage may vary. So for IQ I'm going to add a card on the screen that will link you to my K70 TKL video, as the RGB Pro and the K70 share the same software functionalities. So now let's take a look at the built-in lighting options. Of course you can add your custom lighting patterns and save them to the keyboard using IQ, but there are a few built-in effects should you be using this on the console, or you simply just don't want to use IQ. So while the video plays through the different lighting effects, I'm going to start my conclusion now, as I've got a lot to cover with my thoughts on the RGB Pro. So the K70 has become a very popular seller over the years in its different variants, and I think it's fair to say that Corsair have had a lot to live up to with the new RGB Pro. They've managed to pack a lot of features into the new model, but that means it has given it a more premium price, that being $169 or pounds or €189. Now I'm sure you will agree that's pretty expensive, but does the range of features make it worthwhile? This iteration of the K70 is more sleek and stealthy, yet it retains the feel and the look that we've become accustomed to from Corsair keyboards. But with features such as the 8000Hz polling rate and the tournament switch, it does make it feel like it's aimed more towards competitive gamers over casual players. I'm going to bring that point up more in a minute. My use of the RGB Pro has been very enjoyable. The texture and the quality of the PBT keycaps have made this a great keyboard to daily drive, and the caps haven't gathered any grease, which has been great to see, even when I've been editing and pressing the same few keys over and over. Generally speaking, I type more than I game, so the pinging sound that I mentioned earlier did start to become rather apparent, but because I knew the keyboard was doing it, I could have subconsciously paid a little bit more attention to it, and putting music on certainly helped distract my brain. Now customization wise for this keyboard, you can have a whopping 50 profiles on this, so the world is really your oyster for custom settings. That and the macro options and 2 layers using the function key really gives you a lot of possibilities, even if the keyboard is lacking dedicated macro keys. I love the hardware options for when IQ isn't running, or if using this on a console or a different PC. It's great to be able to set my own lighting theme and have it work with whatever device I use it on over the default effects. So back to the 8000Hz polling in tournament mode. Personally I found it hard to tell the difference or find any benefit of more than 1000Hz, but that being said I'm more of a casual gamer, so that could be down to me not being used to a faster response, so others might be able to tell. And as a quick side note, you will need to enable that 8K polling in IQ. That's just to allow maximum compatibility out of the box, plus the 8K does use a little bit more of the CPU's resources. The tournament switch isn't something that I use either, so if you're going to be in the same boat as me and just game every now and again, then you might not want those features. I would like to see a version of this keyboard without those 2 features because it just adds extra cost. It could be the case that people will see this keyboard and buy a different one because of seeing features that they just don't need. Of course you're going to know whether you want or need the number keys over choosing a TKL variant. Personally for me, I do like having them. Occasionally I find myself needing them, especially when I have to do the boring accounting. Also, given those number keys add some length to the keyboard, this allows the media controls to be moved rather than having them in a separate place like on the top left as we saw with the K70 TKL. On the topic of media controls, I do love having those on a keyboard as someone that plays music while they work. The scroll wheel is very nice too. I do love a bit of milled metal. The tops of the media control buttons aren't PBT though, so they can gather grease quite easily, just like the macro and other buttons on the top of the keyboard. The media keys are also a membrane too, so more of a spongy feel, and then the top controls are a really shallow click, so lots of different feeling switches on one keyboard. All in all, this is a great keyboard and it's been great to use, and I'll definitely continue using it. It's just a shame that it has such a price premium with a couple of features that a lot of people may not use, other than trying them when they first take it out of the box. So if you've got any more questions about the K70 RGB Pro, then do leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'll leave Amazon links in the description if you want to pick one up. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing and ding the bell so you don't miss a video. Thank you to Corsair for sending this out for me to review, and I'll see you all in the next video.